All right, so this is Project 5 continued. Our first order of business was to create a page that was 8 inches by 8 inches, and then we went to the master page and we put page numbers on both sides. Now, if we were to double click now on the actual pages in the pages panel, not the master page, but the actual pages, you will see, and I will zoom in, you will see that there is a page number in the position that you placed it in on the actual pages. It should not have a letter A. It should be whatever page you told this first page to be in your document, which would be an even page number. Now I am going to go back to the master page just for a moment myself, and I'm going to, the little blue line for me is a little distracting, so I'm going to pull it off. You can either click on those and hit the delete key, or you can drag them up above the page and they'll disappear. So I went to the master page, and that was just, for me, it's a visual, it just gets annoying after a while, so I'll get rid of them. Now, I have double-clicked on page, the first page of the document. For me, it's 116. I'm not sure what it is for you. Now, this, guys, is a one-column grid. There's not a whole lot to it. Here's one big column in this pink box, and then on the right-hand page is another big column, just one column grid. We normally break it down into more columns. I will not have you use a one column grid on this project. So let's break this down into 2 columns to start out with. So I am again clicked on not my master page. Do not be on your master page on this. Be on your regular page. And here's how you edit your grid after you've already created the document. For these 2 pages, I want them both to be the same. So what we need to do is we need to hold down the shift key and click on both pages, meaning if you had double clicked on the first page of the document, it's gray. You want to hold down the shift key and click on that second page of the document, because you want to affect both pages here. We want to have grid lines on both pages. So make sure both of these are gray. So here we go to a place called Layout. This is the menu at the top. Layout, yes.
So I do have the master selected because both pages are together, but like the actual reload of the pages, there's only one.
Uh-oh. Well, I'm going to have to take an investigation to see why there's only, I assume your page number is over here on the left, but not on the right. Is that right?
They're both.
Oh, they're both? Okay, let me take a look. Oh, okay, gotcha. What you'll do is you'll just drag one of these pages down right there. Okay, the question was, and this was something that was missed, and it's not a big deal. I kind of go fast. I'm going to delete this page for just a second. The question was, hey, I only have one page here, and how did you get that second page? There's a number of ways, but one of the quickest ways to do this is to just grab from the A master a page and drag it to the right-hand side to get that second page. That's a pretty quick way. The other way is to right-click and tell it to insert a page and just say, I want one page after page. For me, it's 116, but I'm hitting cancel. I don't want to insert a page after that. So that's how I got the 2-page spread on my regular pages panel.
I have the 2-page spread, but I don't have the 117. This is 116 on the
Uh-oh. Okay, well, let's see what's going on. So it's missing the page number. All right, let's double click on your master page. It's there, isn't it? Let's zoom into that real close. I just want to make sure it wasn't off the page. Sometimes when something's off, it will do that. Okay. Oh, I have an idea. I know what it is. Double click on page 116. Zoom out, Command 0, number 0, and then scroll over to the other side. Yeah. This doesn't have an A in there. Okay? So what you want to do is grab this page and drag it right over the top of that. That's what you're going to get. And this doesn't have an A in it either. So guess what you got to do? Okay, I want to show you another problem, which all of you could have this problem happen, and we need to know how to solve this problem. I'm going to show you my problem. My problem here is that in my 2-page spread, I have page 116 here, but then when I scroll over, there is no page 117. I go to my master page and I can see that there's an automatic page number there and over there. So let me go back to my 2-page spread. And can anybody tell me why I don't have a page number over here, even though I had it on my master? This is a small little detail, which would be easily missed. This is why it's a problem.
Was it because you copied the left one over, or is it because...
You're getting close, but not
You
quite.
brought it from none, not from.
Oh, I brought it from none. Oh, this is why I said, guys, I don't normally use this. This none thing, oh, you got to know where you're clicking from. None will have no page number on it. So what I can do is I can grab this right-hand page and drag it right over that other right-hand page, and it will have the little A symbol and the page number popped up. If you do not have the little A in the upper corners in your little pages panel, we know that that is a blank page and you'll need to drag something from the master over it. Okay, so now I have 2 page numbers.
What about the new page beside the trash?
Oh, I could do that too. Sepida says, well, you know, you worked awfully hard to just drag that. Couldn't you just hit the new page icon next to the trash? Yes, and it will automatically add it. Oops, I'm in. Oh, what did it do? Oh, it added one in the master because I was in my master, so I'm going to hit Command Z. Let me go here into this page. Actually, I'll go to page 117, which is my second page. If I click the little Create New Page, it will automatically create a third page in my document. So you don't have to click and drag. If you're worried that clicking and dragging is going to get you in trouble, then make sure you are on the page where you want to add a page, on the very last page of the document. Then click the Add Page or Create New Page button. Okay? I'm going to delete these. We'll add some pages here in just a second. Okay, any other funky, cool problems that have come up? Because I love being able to solve these mysteries that you guys come up with. Yes,
Mine doesn't
Sean.
actually go next to the page, it like goes below it, so it reads it.
Okay, Sean has this problem. Hold on, Sean, I'm going to create your problem. Sean has this problem where his pages are split, both in the InDesign document, the big part, and in the little pages panel. How do we solve the problem, and why are they splitting? First off, that's the question. Why are they
even?
Aha, Sepida says you started on an odd page, not an even page. Odd pages always are over on the right. So to get these two to come together, we would right-click on that first page of the document. So right-click, go to Numbering and Section Options, and where it says Start Page Numbering At, you want to type in an even page number. So for me, it's going to be 116. I hit OK, and oh, they go right together. Very nice. I'm glad we're experiencing that because now you know why I told you to go to Numbering and Section Options. You got to experience a problem when we didn't. All right, good job. Good questions. All right, any other questions? All right, let's move on to grids. Let's add grids to this. We're going to start with 2-column grid for both of these pages. So double click on page 116 or your first page of your document. Then hold down the Shift key and click one time on the right-hand page of this document, not on the master page, but on the actual pages. Okay, so I have my 2 pages selected. We're going to make a grid on both of these pages. So here's how we do the grid. We're going to click on Layout in the menu at the top. That's Layout. We go to Margins and Columns. Oh, well, this is how we build a grid. It has columns. This is 2 items down. Now we have a Margins and Columns dialog box. If we want 2 columns, we would click where it says number under the columns area. Number, we hit the arrow up and it goes to 2 columns. Okay, that's what we want on this one, 2 columns. I'm going to hit OK. And now I have a 2-column grid for pages 116 and pages 117. If it only created a grid on one side, such as this, we put 2 columns in here. Oops, it didn't. Oh, it doesn't like R as a column. If it only put it on one side, oops, that means I had forgotten to hold down the Shift key to click on the second page. Okay, so hold down your Shift key when you're wanting to do 2 pages and making them have the same margins and columns. So this is a 2-column grid. There we go. Now, because we're going to experiment with multiple grid structures, we're going to build a number of grids here. So this is a 2-column grid. Let's add 2 pages to the document. And Sapita mentioned that if we clicked on the page icon, the new page icon, which is located next to the little trash can in the Pages panel, you want to click on that little new page icon once and then twice. It will add 2 more pages. Nice. If you zoom out a little bit, you'll be able to see the first 2 pages of your document and the second 2 pages at the same time. Now, let's turn the second spread. This is called a spread, by the way. When there's 2 pages that face each other, this is called a spread. So this spread, we want it to have 3 columns on each page. How would we do that? On both of them.
Should we do 2 new pages is supposed to automatically change the numbers?
It will automatically change the numbers to the next 2 page numbers.
It did like over here on top, but it didn't.
Okay, so the question is when we have, in my case, my document starts on page 116 and then right next to it is 117. The third page of the document should be 118 and the fourth page should be 119. So the question is, why didn't mine change? Well, I'm going to have to go and look at your document just to see, okay? And then I'll figure out why it didn't change. It seems like it should be easier than this, doesn't it? Yeah. It actually is once you get the hang of it. So 2 and 3, and then you have 2 and 3, and 2 and 3. Okay. Oh, it's because you put 2 and 3 there. All right. Okay. You put an A there. I wonder if you did your A under 2 and 3. So here I'm on your master. Let's do this. Let's try to go type, go to insert special character. Go to markers, do current page number. Now scroll over. Try it on the other side too. This is already over there. Double click on that letter or that number. Now double click on page 2, see what you got. 2, probably 3 over there. Now double click on page 4 and 5. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what happened with Alicia's document, but she somehow on the master, instead of having little A's in here, she had a page number 2 and a page number 3 here. And if that were the case, so let's say I type in a 3 here and a 2 here, instead of that automatic page numbering, if that were the case, every page I have is going to have 2 and 3. So this is pages 116 and 117. And then if I go to scroll down to the next page, it also has 2 and 3. So we just had to go back and change those back to the automatic page numbering. All right, so we know that that is type insert special characters current page number. So if you had a problem where the same page number shows up on every page, 2 and 3 or 116, 117, you want to go back to your master page and make sure that these little page numbers have an A in them. By the way, if you type an A in there, it's not the same thing. It'll make every page an A. So that little A only means that you're on master page A, but that is an actual special character for page numbers. If I typed in just an A, it would show an A on every page, which we don't want. Okay, let's go back to the second spread. Let's make this a 3-column grid. This is super easy because you guys already did this with a 2-column grid, but I'll tell you, you'll forget one big thing, which is hold down the shift key and click on, make sure that both of these pages are clicked on, okay, before you do this. So you're going to go to Layout, Margins and Columns, and for the number of columns, we'll do 3. And it should be on both pages, assuming you held down the shift key and got the second page. I hit OK. Now we're going to add a few more pages. So I have a 2-column grid, a 3-column grid, and guess what my next column grid is going to be? 4, but I will do upwards of 7. So I want to hold down the shift key and make sure both of my most newest pages are selected. And I can go to Layout, Margins and Columns, and I'm going to tell it to be a 4-column grid. Now, Sean mentioned 7. 7 is a good number, Sean. I do like a lot of columns in my stuff. It gives me a lot more flexibility in my design. When you guys are working with a design where it's only a 2-column grid per page, you only have a couple of places to align elements. So your design oftentimes can look a little flat. The more columns you have, the more flexibility you have. So if we looked at the 2-column layout, we only have 2 columns to line things up to per page. Now, in essence, if you look at this 4-column layout, I'm going to just do this. You don't have to do this. This is just for demonstration. A 4-column layout could be a 2-column layout in that I can break the grid and put in a text box here and also one here. So a 4-column grid can act like a 2-column grid. Or it can act like a 4-column grid. And don't worry, I'll show you how we do this in a minute. This is just for demonstration. It can act like a 4-column grid by having 4 text boxes perhaps, or images down below. Or you could even have something that's asymmetrical where you delete these, except for the last one, and you stretch it across 3 of the 4 columns. That's pretty flexible as compared to a 2-column grid. So the more columns you have, the more flexibility you have. All right, so I just wanted to demonstrate that with some color boxes.
How do you add the new spread?
Well, when you're in the Pages panel and you're on, double click on the very last page of your document and just hit, or click rather, the little new page, the new page button, which is a little, it looks like a little dog-eared page right next to the trash can.
I did that, but it ended up giving me another master page, and then.
Oh, yeah, that happened to me earlier too. That's why I'm saying double click on that very last page. If you're up here in the master, like I'm clicked up here right now. I know you can't tell, but I'm clicked here. As soon as I hit the plus sign, oops, or maybe I'm clicked here. As soon as I hit that plus sign, it gives me a master. So it's so hard to remember where you're at, whether you're in a master page or your regular pages. That takes a little time to get used to.
Well, I can delete this B master.
Yeah, And to delete a master page, all you would do is just drag the word Be Master to the little trash can, or hit the trash can when it's selected, and it'll go away. Okay. Then after it's gone, double click on the very last page of the document. Make sure you can, you can tell you're on it when it says whatever page number it is, and hit the Create New Page button twice, and it'll add 2 more pages beyond that page. So our last spread was a 4-column grid. This one should be how many columns? We'll just do them in 5. Yeah, we'll do them 1 column extra each time. So I'm going to Layout, Margins and Columns, and I tell it to be 5 columns. Oops, I think I just put in 6. I hit OK. Uh-oh, it only did it on one side. I lost. I just lost the game. Called in. This is I treat InDesign like it's a game. I want to win. It just beat me. What happened?
You didn't double.
I forgot to hold down the Shift key and click on this other page, didn't I? Ugh. I hate when that happens. Don't you guys hate when that happens? There we go. I always forget. Now, again, to get 2 more pages, I just click on the little Create New Page button, click on it twice, and bam, there's 2 new pages. This is assuming I'm not in the master page. And for this one, I'm going to do a 6-column grid. Layout, margins and columns, and I'll just highlight the number 1 and put in 6. Oh, I did it again. Oh, this is so frustrating. You'll do it too. We're all in this together, aren't we? Now, a 6-column grid is probably enough, but for me, like Sean, I'm a grid maniac. I oftentimes will put as many as 7 columns in. So if you wanted a 7-column grid, you could do that as well. I'm just going to do that real quickly. There we go. Okay, so here we have, gosh, we got quite a few pages here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I got 12 pages in this one document. Each spread has a different grid structure. Well, I suppose this lets us know that we can have multiple grids within one document. A lot of people don't know that you can do multiple grids even in one document, but here we have multiple grids in one InDesign document. Now, if I were you, I would save this if you haven't already done so. I would save it as Project 5 and stick it into a Project 5 folder, assuming you've already created a Project 5 folder. If you have not created a Project 5 folder, go ahead and do that. Oh. All right. Now guess what we're ready to do? Put some text in it. Oh yeah. Now we're going to put text in it a few different ways, okay? So I'm going to play around with a few different layouts here. I got plenty to play with. When I put the text in here, what it does is it helps me understand how much space I have left over for other elements of design, including headlines, subheadlines, and the images. So we're going to keep it simple for now. We're going to start with the 2-column grid, which would be the first 2 pages of the document. Now I'm going to make my pages panel much smaller so I can zoom into this. Now, we're going to place this text, assuming you downloaded it from our Blackboard. It is in this example here for weeks 5 and 6. It says Gutenberg or Project 5 Grids and Layouts. It's text for Project 5, grids.docx. That's our Microsoft Word document. If you haven't already downloaded that, you want to right-click and save the link as and take it to your Project 5 folder. Okay, mine's already there. So download that text. I don't want you guys to have to typeset this. It's already typed. You're welcome. So I'm going to place this text. How would I place the text? File, place. What's the keyboard shortcut? Command D on a Mac, Control D on a PC. Okay, so file place is Command D on a Mac, Control D on a PC. All right. Now I'm going to go to that folder that I have for Project 5. So you got to find that. If it's on your flash drive, you may have to click on your flash drive and go get it. Because I've saved my document to this Project 5 folder, it will automatically kind of go there. So here is the text for Project 5. It's called Text for Project 5 Grids. I click on it, and I can either hit open, or I don't know that I've told you guys this yet. To be more efficient, instead of clicking on it and hitting open, you can double click on it And it automatically understands that you want to open that and have it ready. Okay? Now I'm going to position this in the far right, I'm sorry, this is left, far left column, and I'm going to click. Oh, I didn't get the whole story. Darn it. Do you guys want to work smarter or do you want to work harder? Smarter. Okay. I'm going to hit Command Z. I'm going to undo this for just a second. It's going to go back to the loaded cursor. Command Z is undo. You see I have this loaded cursor. Whoops, it went to the wrong page. Now I got to scroll back to my page. I want this to automatically flow from one column to the next. And just by clicking, it did not do that. Anybody know what I need to hold down to get it to flow into the next column and any other columns? What's that? Left click? Not quite. Watch this, guys. Very good. If you hold down Shift, you can see, don't click yet, you can see that your little loaded cursor goes from, it looks like a little newspaper to a little arrow that looks like a snake. That means autoflow. If you hold down Shift and then click, don't click and drag, just click, it will automatically flow into all the columns, and sometimes if you have lots of text, it'll go ahead and make more pages for you too. That's working smarter, not harder. Now, you guys took a quiz, and it asked you a question, and some of you guys you're like, oh, well, one of the questions was 5-point text is easy to read, true or false? That's false because it's really small. I think another question is, what are the preferred sizes, not the standard sizes of text type, but what are the preferred sizes of text type if you're looking for somebody to actually read it? What's the preferred size of text if you want people to read it? Do you remember?
14 to 16.
Ooh, you guys are all over the place. Let me tell you. Preferred for optimal reading is between 9 points and 11 points. Okay? Text type can be set anywhere from 5 points to 12 points. Anything over 12 points is usually, or 14-ish, is usually considered display. However, we don't set text usually at 12 or 14 points because it's too big, unless you're setting it for the elderly whose eyes have changed, or for kindergartners who are learning to read. Then you can go with the bigger stuff. Well, we will assume that this is probably more for college-age students, so this should be between 9 and 11. Now, again, when I was at the kids' magazines, Turtle magazine for preschool kids, their type was 20 points. That was huge for body copy. But you're talking about Turtle, preschoolers. They're just trying to figure out their letters. Humpty Dumpty's magazine, we took it down to 18 points, but that's still big. Well, they're learning to read, and they're learning that alphabet. The next age range we had was, I think, called Playmate magazine, and it went down a couple more points. By the time I had U.S. Kids, the weekly reader publication, those kids were in 5th grade and higher. We took it down to 9 points by the time they were in 5th grade. So we actually changed the point size based off the age of the kids. So in this case, right now, it came in as Times New Roman, and I need to change that from 12 point to anywhere between 9 and 11. I don't know which yet because I don't know what font I'm using, but I'll start with 9. Yes, Dom?
So you work with U.S. Kids?
Yeah, U.S. Kids. It was a weekly reader publication put on by Scholastics. Yeah.
So we probably did.
You may have, if you received the weekly reader, or excuse me, U.S. Kids. I stopped art directing that in 2000. Yes, in 2000. So
I wasn't in the U.S. in 2000.
okay, so if you had that magazine before the year 2000, yes, in some way I was touching your mind.
I should put that. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Or if you were in kindergarten, let's see, I'd have to do that. Let's see. If you were in kindergarten and took Humpty Dumpty's magazine in the year 2000 or before, I was doing between 1995 and 2000. If you had a subscription to Humpty Dumpty, I was touching your mind back then.
Kids, for my kids.
Yeah, for your kids. I was touching your kids' minds back that time. That's kind of wild, isn't it? That kind of gave me the creeps.
Crazy.
Kind of gave me the goosebumps. Yeah, so I've been messing with you guys for a while. You just didn't know it. And that's why I took that job. I love that job because I did feel like I was indirectly assisting in the education of our kids, who were, but not directly, but indirectly. That was my main reason of taking that job. I was like, my God, this is the coolest job ever. I don't have to teach the kids. I don't have to have a classroom of kindergartners, but I am indirectly affecting them, hopefully in a positive way. What's that? Yeah, between 9 and 11. Yeah, that's your optimal readability for college-age students is between 9 and 11, assuming you don't have an eyesight problem. Now, that all depends on the typeface you're using, honestly. You see there's quite a bit of range between 9 and 11. There's 3, 9, 10, or 11. And, you can do things in between that even. Let me share with you the differences between those, why we have that. Now, you don't have to do this. I just want to demonstrate something. I'm going to copy and paste graphic arts a few times within the same line here. And again, you do not have to do this. I'm going to set one as Garamond, assuming I have a Garamond loaded. If not, we know how to load them. Garamond Pro regular. I'm going to set one as, let's see if Bodoni's loaded. Oh, sure. Bodoni 72 book. Book is pretty much a normal one. And then I'm going to set the last one at Helvetica. Helvetica, not bulges. I want something just regular. And I'm going to zoom into these. Let me isolate them just a little bit. And which one of these looks the biggest? No, the graphic arts, yeah. The one that's Helvetica, I get it, guys. I do the same thing. Okay, so what I'm doing, the Helvetica one looks bigger. But wait a second. These are all, that's 9 point, that's 9 point, and that's 9 point. I'm going to pull a guide down to show where the baseline of these is. May have to zoom in to see that baseline a little bit better and be more accurate. So here's the baseline. The baseline is the imaginary line that type appears to be sitting on. Lord, I cannot zoom today to save my life. Here we go. So this is the, oh, there we go. Gosh, I can't grab it there. Oh, there's our imaginary line. Okay, I'm getting kind of close. And my zoom is just going crazy today. My apologies. Oh, that's the worst baseline I've ever done. It really should be right underneath it. Oh, it just wants to fuss today. There we go. Close enough. So let me zoom out just a little bit. Oh, Lord, my zoom is going nuts. There we go. So there's the baseline. They all share the same baseline, right? That seems good. Now let's drag it to the capital height. I'm going to grab this and drag it to the caps height, preferably not the G because it's got a curve, but the A. Okay, so the reason why not the G, I'll show you that. I did it to the top of the A. What happens is circles optically need to be a little bit bigger or outside of these lines. If we had the circular letter the same height as the A, it actually looks like it's smaller than the A. So this is an optical illusion that we have on this planet with our eyes and the way they work. Oh, zoom, come on. Now, if I come over here, we can see that this more or less falls at the capital height of the A. Sometimes it's not the capital that they're looking at, it's actually the ascenders. And let's go to Garamond. Oh, Garamond is one of those problems where it doesn't measure the typeface by the capital height, it does it by the ascenders. So it's really ascender height that I'm doing, not capital. These are all the same point size. They all fall within these two lines. Now, let's take a look at the X height. I am going to pull a guide down to the square part of this P. That would also be where the height of the lowercase x. Okay, so there's that. Now, if I scroll over to Baskerville, or Bodoni, whichever one I was using here. This is Bodoni. Wow, the X height of Bodoni is not where this line is here at all. You can zoom out just a little bit. Oh, the zoom is just, I'm going to quit griping about it here. This is the X height of the Helvetica. Well, if I type an X for Bodoni, you can see that that line does not fall at that point as the same as it is in Helvetica. See, there's the Helvetica X. And then if I come over here to Garamond, we notice that it even has a little bit lower X height. I'm going to put an X out here just so we can see it. So let me zoom in to its X. And I'm going to pull down something to its X height. Garamond's X height is fairly short. Bodoni's X height, let's pull it down to the X. Oh, let me go find it. Oh, heavens. Oh, I'm having a day with this. There we go. Here's our Bodoni X. Oh, it's higher than the Garamond X. And then this top line here was the height of the Helvetica X. Even though these typefaces are all the same points, this is the same size of type, we notice that Helvetica looks bigger than Garamond and Bodoni. We notice that Bodoni looks slightly larger than Garamond. So, what this means is, if I'm setting my body copy in Helvetica, I want to use a smaller point size because its X height is huge, okay? So fonts with bigger X heights need to be set a little bit smaller. So maybe 9 points for Helvetica. Bodoni here has about a medium X height. It's shorter than Helvetica, taller than Garamond. What point size should I set that at if I'm using Bodoni? 10. Yeah, it's right in the middle. 10. And then since Garamond has the smallest X height, what would I set it at? The bigger number or the smaller number?
11.
11, the bigger number. Okay? Fonts with smaller X heights need a little bit bigger point size. Fonts with big X heights need a little bit smaller point size. It's opposite day, isn't it? And then fonts with the average X height will be that 10 point, the average number. Okay. Now you understand about X heights because you got to see it. When seeing it is believing it. Okay? I'm going to hit Command Z several times to undo what I've done. Get rid of a few things here. So, what I need to decide what point size I'm going to set my font or my type based off of what font I used. So let's say I decide I want something more modern. I might choose Universe or Futura or Helvetica. Those are all sans serif. Let me see if we even have Universe loaded. No, we own it, but we don't have it loaded. Let's see if we have Futura loaded. Yes. So let's say I want Futura. Futura has, let me also, I'm going to see how its X height is. I always typeset the word twice, and I'm going to set this one in Helvetica just to see, is this a medium one or a heavier X height? So I'm going to, these two are not the same typeface. This one's going to be, actually they are right now. This one's going to be Helvetica just to see. I'm just doing a test. Let's see, I want Helvetica regular. Oh, there's so many Helveticas in there, isn't there? Let's see what Futura's X height looks like compared to Helvetica's. Okay, Oh, Futura falls about into the medium. It's not quite as tall as Helvetica. So I will typeset things next to each other just to get an idea. So for Futura, instead of setting it at 11 points, I'll probably set it at 10 points because its X height is not as big as Helvetica's. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of my duplicate here. And we're going to set this type at 11 points. Now, to do that, I get my type tool and I put my cursor into the type box and I hit Command A, that's select all. And then I go into the point size area, which I know this is small at a distance, but the point size is over the leading, so it's the top number. So this is the point size at the top and the bottom one is the leading. So the point size for me is going to be 10. I could go 9 if I wanted to, but 10 for now. What should my leading be at if I have a 10-point typeface? Do you guys remember? I think we might have talked about that before. 10 over 10? Ooh, that looks crowded, doesn't it? That's called set solid. Remember when we did those exercises and we were playing around with the leading? This is why. We look at it and we're like, oh, 10 over 10 looks a little crowded. You don't want to scare your readers away. So I'm going to select all again, and I'm going to try 10 over 11. Like, well, that's better. I think it's more readable. But if I look to see how close things get, such as my descenders of one letter and my ascenders of other letters, they're getting very close. So I will look at those details. And I will maybe increase this to be 10 over 12. And now when I look at descenders and ascenders, they don't look so uncomfortable as if they're invading each other's space. So I just concluded that this typeface, Futura Medium, sets well at 10 points typeface over 12 points of leading. We call it 10 over 12. Now, you guys can play around with different type here. So maybe for my 2-column grid, I might play with Futura or Helvetica or something like that. You know, for my 4-column grid, I might play around with Garamond. So you guys don't have to have the same typeface on all the pages. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Yes, Isaac, how are you? We do need to get rid of the hyphens. I appreciate you for asking that. He says, hey, I see hyphens in there, and you told us from this point on, you shall have no hyphens in your text. This was a while back I told you this. And so he's taking me very seriously, and I appreciate that. How do I kill my hyphens? So easy, isn't it? You guys remember? Highlight all your text, hit Command A with your type tool. Get your type tool in there, hit Command A, because you want it to affect all of this text. And Sepida is saying go to the paragraph formatting control, which is the backwards P here on the control panel. And we uncheck hyphenate. Yay! Make sure you have no hyphenated text. And then I saved it. Now we also might at this point decide about a couple of other things about our paragraphs. How are we going to break our paragraphs? Remember one of our most recent projects was how are you going to show the difference between one paragraph and another? Here, I get to make those decisions, but with an actual, spread. So I'm going to select all of my text. And let's say since this is a modern font, modern typeface, let's say I want to handle my paragraph breaks more modern. Well, the old method would be to indent your first line. That's old school. What's a more modern way to deal with this? What's that? Glyphs. I could do glyphs. I could have glyphs at the end of every paragraph. I could do that. What's another way? Oh, I could have a drop cap on one, but not all. Oh, let's do the drop cap. I love the idea of a drop cap. Now, this is going to be the first paragraph, not the graphic arts. That's going to be a headline. But let's go ahead and let people know that this is where the paragraph starts. Okay, just put your cursor in that first paragraph. Don't select all the text. And the drop cap, there's little pictures right here in the paragraph formatting controls. There's a little picture of an A and then little text around it. And then that's how many lines it'll go down. So the little A, well, it's actually a capital A. Let's make it go down 1. Nope, it doesn't show anything. Well, you can't have a 1-line drop cap. It has to go 2 or higher. There we go, finally. I like that. That feels more modern, kind of.
Would you put it on 3 or 2?
I did it on 3 myself, but you could do it on 5 or 2 or whatever feels good to you guys, whatever looks good. Now, so we now know where the initial paragraph starts, don't we? But I can't really tell in some cases where the other paragraphs start and stop. So what was somebody mentioned something else. What else could I do to kind of indicate where one thing starts and another one stops? Space between. I kind of like that idea. Space between the paragraphs. I don't necessarily want to put a first line indent in there. You can. I'm not saying what I'm saying. No, please don't take what I'm saying as gospel here. You can do a first line indent if you want. But for me, because I'm using a modern typeface on this layout, I am going to select this text and I am going to add a little space after each of these paragraphs. Now, as I float my cursor around these little icons, you'll see that space after has a little arrow at the bottom with a little white space. That's the one I want. What number should I put in there? There's a general rule I gave you guys a while back, but I throw a lot at you. Don't get upset if you're not remembering stuff. I throw a lot at you. You guys remember what the leading amount on this was? 12. So what's my space after? No, well, I could do 6, but I prefer a full 12. Yeah. So if you want that to be the same amount as your leading, here's why. You want your text to clothesline across columns, meaning, let me zoom in. You'll see that the baseline of this, I'll pull a guide down, the baseline of the lines of text over on the left column match to the baseline of the lines of text in the right column. That's really a good idea. You don't want those off. If I had a space that was not the same as the leading, those would be off. Okay, so that's a general rule of thumb. Anytime you have space between paragraphs, make it the same number as the leading that you're using. It will work out better for you. They'll line up better.
Which one did you want to do the space between?
I chose, in my paragraph formatting, it was the space after the paragraph, which has a little arrow at the bottom of what looks to be a paragraph. And I put in 12 PT, which is equal to 1 pica. I know it's hard to see from way back there. Let me take a look at what you have.
I'm just trying to find it out here.
Okay, yours is going to be over here. There it is. My view has been condensed a little bit. So you start putting whatever your leading amount is, put the same number in there.
Oh, the same amount.
Same amount as your leading. Just to get you in good habits, the same amount as your leading.
Oh, mine won't go down.
Sometimes I'll put a pike in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 pike is the same as 12 points. So you put in 1 pica, that's equivalent to 12 points because there's 12 points in a pica, right? You guys remember that? There's so much to remember in typography. You guys are like, wow, this typography class is going to be cool. We're going to be doing like hand lettering and stuff. And now you're going, oh my God, we are doing all this stuff that's, it's like hairs, splitting hairs. All this stuff you got to know. How many of you guys thought we were going to hand letter in this class? Anybody think that? Okay, I knew at least one person probably thought that. We might.
The pica, the one after the pica is 1 pica, right?
1 P0 is 1 pica 0 points. 1 P0 is the equivalent to 12 points because there's 12 points in a pica.
So 1 P0 is equivalent to 1 is equivalent to 12 points.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Oh my, I'm about worn out. You guys about worn out from all this today? It's a lot of information. me. I'm saving it. Now, I know I've already TMI'd you too much today, too much information. I've TMI'd you, haven't I? You guys are like, oh, this is information overload. But I do want to, at least on this page, and we'll continue this on Thursday or Wednesday. I do want to share with you how I would break this text up. There are various ways I would break it up, but you want to break it up for sense. The first paragraph is the intro paragraph. So he might stand by himself. He might go across 2 columns. I don't know yet. But I'll start separating this stuff out. Now, so let me show you how I do that. I use the black arrow tool, which is the selection tool. Some people call it the move tool. I click on the first text box just one time, not double clicking. If I double click, I'll turn into a text box or a type tool. And this you have to be really careful about. Do not click on the little arrow down in the lower right-hand corner, because it will just give you all sorts of problems at this point if you do that. Do not click on the yellow little box either. He's going to give you problems as well. What we want to do is we just want to click on one of the little white squares, and we are going to squeeze out the type underneath Graphic Arts. I've just isolated that type, so he's going to be his own little thing, his own little intro paragraph to this layout. Now, let's move to the next section of what we would read. Printing in Germany has 3 paragraphs. That is the whopper. That's the whopper section of this layout. So I want printing in Germany, I want those 3 paragraphs somehow to kind of stay together or break for sense if they don't. Oh, there's a widow. Uh-oh. Well, I'll tell you how to kill widows in just a little bit. Maybe Wednesday. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. And I'm going to grab Printing in Germany with the black arrow tool, the direct selection tool. I'm sorry, the selection tool. What are they calling it? Content? What are they doing it? Oh, it's not even putting the right direct. That's not direct selection. That's the white one. It's not even acting right. So content plate. No, that's not it. Okay, well, I'm going to click on it with the black arrow tool. And I'm going to move that box so it lines up with the grid, but underneath Graphic Arts a little bit. Okay, you'll see it's too big for this space. Now, I'm going to pull on this little one. I call it the window shade. Like if you had an old-fashioned window shade at the bottom, you kind of pull and you bring it up. I'm going to bring that up until it makes one of those paragraphs disappear. In fact, I'm going to make both of those paragraphs disappear. Why not? And then I'm going to move that box down so it's conforming to the grid. Now this box over here has the other 2 paragraphs. Well, I am going to click and drag on the window shade, the anchor point, to pull up and crowd out all the text except for those 2 paragraphs. And I'm moving them over near the information that it's supposed to go with. There we go. Getting those kind of lined up too. Usually I zoom in to see if those are lining up. Like I want the baselines to line up, so I am going to carefully get it so that these line up as best as I can. I'll go in and fix them if they're not later. So right now we would read the Graphic Arts section as 1 paragraph. We would read Printing in Germany as 3 different paragraphs. And now I'm out of text. Where did it go? Well, we see the red plus sign. Again, with the selection tool, which is the black arrow tool, I'm going to click on the plus sign that's red. And then I'm going to click over in the next column and not drag, just click. We know that the next thing that is supposed to be read is Insight and Innovation. So I'm going to click on my window shade, that anchor point, and crowd out Continuing a Legacy. Maybe Insight and Innovation will go up here. I don't know yet. I've got to look at my images and figure out what I'm pairing with things. Lastly, I click on the red plus sign again after I've crowded that text out. And I'm going to click in the last column, and maybe I'll shorten that, and that will be at the very end. Okay, so I just broke my text up. And I'm breaking for sense, meaning it's going to flow well, it's going to read more naturally. Hopefully people won't get lost very easily in the layout. Now, whether or not I like this layout the way it is, I'm not sure. But this tells me how much room I have to play with. A big headline, like for graphic arts, it's going to be maybe a big headline. The artwork that we have, you know, I could even move Insight and Innovation over so that it's in this column but separated. So I don't have to have text in every column, but I do want a certain flow. Now, cool thing is it's a computer and you can move this anywhere you want and then print it out. Now, here's what I want for Thursday. Wednesday is when I have you guys, for Wednesday. Now, I've just started a 2-column grid here. But I have not yet played around with the 3-column grid or any of the other grids. What I want you guys to do, and this will probably be the easiest thing, is once you get these in place, and you have, you know, you can change the formatting in the font here, but grab all of them, hit Command A. For Command A is select all, on a PC is Control A. This is assuming you have the selection tool, which is the black arrow tool chosen. So I'm going to hit Select A or Command A, and then I'm going to scroll down. I'm not clicking on anything. I'm just scrolling down, and I'm going to go to pages, the next 2 pages of the document. I'm going to go to Edit, Paste in Place. Don't just paste. Paste in Place. Paste in Place is awesome. It's working smarter, not harder. Because, oops, it's supposed to put it in exactly the position you had it, and I don't know what just happened there. It should have grabbed everything I told it to, but it's behaving poorly. So let's see if I can do that again. Select it all, copy it, go to the second spread, and edit, paste in place. There we go. That's what it was supposed to do. Now guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this stuff conform to a 3-column grid. And so this layout is going to change. You always start at the first part of the text and then work your way down. If you start at the end and you're like, oh, I want this to look like this, and you move it around, then as soon as you move something else around, guess what? That last guy reflows and you're doubling your work. Okay, so I always start at the beginning of the story when I'm doing this. Maybe this is going to be 3 columns for printing in Germany. I just have to get this to fit. And I know I make things look really easy when I do this stuff because I've been doing it way too many years. But I'm going to use that window shade pulling technique to get things where they need to go. Get things to flow beautifully. I like the 3-column grid already better than I like the 2-column grid. It gives me much more flexibility. So here I have a 3-column grid layout, which I really like that printing in Germany, I could, oh man, banging those paragraphs out almost perfectly like that. I'm loving what's happening there versus a 2-column grid. So this 3-column grid is actually working out better for me than the 2-column grid. And then I'm breaking the grid by running across columns.
How did you get them to go into the 3? I'm sorry, when you selected all, did you copy
Okay.
copy it?
Hold on, let me bounce back to here just a little bit.
Paste in place.
Yeah. Okay, so I went to the first one. I selected all of my stuff with the black arrow tool. I double-clicked on the next spread to get to it. And I went to Edit, Paste in Place, and it puts it exactly with the grid. Lovely. Saves you a lot of time, doesn't it? And then I can start moving my boxes around, starting with the thing you would read first, because it's going to reflow really badly. And I just start moving my boxes around, and as soon as it, you know, if I need a box, I can always build more boxes. And guys, when you get to a situation like this down here, where I have 2 columns, but I want a 3rd column that will take care of that last paragraph, I don't have to draw a text box right off the bat. What I do is when I have, you know, that paragraph's all the way over here on this right-hand page. But what I want it to do is I want it to automatically flow here. So even though I don't have a plus sign down here at the bottom of this paragraph, I have this little icon that has an arrow. If I click on that, it will reload the cursor, and I will click and drag a box for that last paragraph. I may have to increase that a little bit just to get it to fit. But what will happen when I do that is it automatically flows the next paragraph into the next text box and so on. Okay, so it creates a really nice situation for you. It doesn't make it so messy. I try my darndest to help you guys work smarter, not harder. So hopefully this is going to help out. And learning the software and doing something is very difficult. And then I might change the font here. Clearly, I don't have to worry about spaces between, well, most of the time I don't have to worry about spaces between my paragraphs because most of my paragraphs are separated by columns. But you could do you could decide in this case, because I don't know if this is the end of a paragraph in the beginning, in this case we might tell the paragraphs to indent to the left a little bit on our first line. I'm clicking on the wrong thing. I'm doing this is always tough for people trying to figure out which button to push. If I look at the pictures, it'll tell me, or float my cursor over these tools, it'll tell me what each one of these does. So I might do a first line indent on this stuff. Not on the first paragraph because it has a drop cap. I'm going to leave that. But on these paragraphs, I can do a first line indent, do the same number on all of them, which was P9, 9 points. So I'm doing a P9 on all of them. Not the headlines, just the paragraphs. So I have to go through and do these separately. And I'm going to take the space out of all of them. I don't need a space after all of them here. So for my space after, I'm going to put that at 0 instead of 12 points. Oh, no, it reflowed everything. Oh, well, all I have to do there is click, move stuff, crowd it out. If it reflows stuff, just crowd things out. Text reflow is probably going to be your biggest. It's going to be your biggest contender. Every time you move, it's a domino effect. When you move one thing or change one thing, it affects everything else, and it's really frustrating. And there's sometimes things we can do to make it easier, but a lot of times we just have to go and make it just reflow properly. So I just took out all that extra spacing and it reflowed everything. Now I had to put it back, everything back to where it's supposed to go. Okay, so here's what I want on Wednesday when you get back in, okay? I want 6 different layouts where you've placed your text in different ways, okay, with all these different columns. So basically you keep copying and pasting the story. Copy it, paste it in place, and you keep moving things to conform to that grid that you're working with. Okay, so in this case I have a 4-column grid. That might go across all 4 of those columns. I might be getting rid of one of these, making this go across 2 columns. The bad thing is I'm going to break some paragraphs up a little bit doing this, but it's not the end of the world to break up a paragraph. You have to realize what your headlines are and subheadlines to be able to make sure you don't, you got insight and innovation as insight and innovation is a subheadline. So you got to make sure he's not at the end of a paragraph looking all silly out there. Maybe my insight and innovation is now a long, skinny paragraph here. Oops, I got crowd out. Continuing a legacy. And maybe continuing a legacy is over here and it's 2 columns. So this layout looks very different from the previous layouts. So you guys are just practicing using the grid and trying to break things up into different easily digestible bits of information. Actually don't like that one. I'm going to run it across 3. There we go. Okay, so Wednesday when you get here, 5 different grid structures with 5 different ways to lay out your body copy, okay?
So only the body copy.
Only the body copy. We're going to deal with headlines on Wednesday, and we're going to play with that a little bit, and then we'll print these out on Wednesday, and I'll show you how to use these to sketch with. We won't print them big. We'll print them really small. It's called thumbnails. The software will print them out in thumbnails for us. It's pretty cool. Other questions?
So you want us to stick to mainly this format of like choosing between how many columns?
Yeah, you just keep playing with different form. Like this guy here, this one's kind of crazy. The 7 column. No, you don't have to. Yeah, well, I don't know. Oops, let me paste in place.
The reason I ask is because I misread and did like a bunch of crazy layouts in a sketchbook.
Oh, okay, without the grid.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want it. Yeah, it's required you guys use grid here on this. Let me show. I'll talk to you about the 7 column grid. The 7 column grid, guys, gives you the most flexibility of the grid structures that you have here. So here I have my graphic arts discussion there. Then printing in Germany, it might start here and go across 2 columns, and then another 2 columns, and then this might go into across 3 columns, so they'll still read nicely. You have a lot of flexibility with the 7 column grid. This might go across 4 columns, or 3, 4. And this guy might decide to go across 5 columns. So you have a lot of flexibility in a 7 column layout. The more columns, the more flexibility. And as long as you're working, maybe I need to move continuing a legacy over here, but we tend to, it still kind of has a sense of unity to it, even though things are kind of broken up. But you have a lot more variety. How many guys eat people chow every day? Every meal, every day, people chow. Kind of like dog food. I mean, your dog always gets the same dog food all the time, and the cat always gets more or less. Once in a while, you throw them a bone or you give them some dry food. Okay, you guys know that you would die if you had to have people chow every day. You would just hate it. A 7 column grid is variety. A 2 column grid is people chow. It's not variety. It's the same food over and over and over again. I'm not saying a 2 column grid isn't nice, but man, look at how much more variety I have with my 7 column grid. It's kind of got rhythm. It's got repetition. It's got things going for it. It's got a future. 2 column grid is like, oh, this is all I can do. Eat dog food. Nothing else. All right. So play around with your grids. I'm saving it, and I'm going to save the video. Any other questions? I'll be off of the video, but I will be here for a few minutes in case you do have any questions.